Hello and welcome to the latest video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to game week 33. My name is Joe and today we'll be looking to see who is due a goal or assist using Fantasy Football Scout's trusty goals and assists imminent tables. As usual, I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scout's deputy editor Tom Freeman. Welcome, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. Yeah, I haven't done one of these for quite a while. I
No,
was trying to remember when the last one I did. I think I missed one, and that's so it's probably game week 30.
it
But
was.
a lot has happened since then. Obviously, we've obviously got 6 game weeks to go. We know about the doubles now in 34, 35. We pretty much know what's happening in 37 too. So yeah, I guess that this is the time for those under the radar picks now, isn't it? So looking forward to having a look at the tables.
Yeah, definitely. It's all changed. Yes, you were away for a week down in my part of the country, the West Country, and I
Yeah.
was then away in Italian's part of the country in Rome for a week, which was great. And we were talking about that before I came on air. It was great weather, but I've now come back with a cold. So bear with any sneezes and coughs and other disgusting noises during this.
I'll try to step in if it gets too bad.
So yeah, I may have to try and mute myself on occasions. Do let us know in the live chat whether you can see and hear us. Okay. Welcome to FPL Copycat, Scott and J7 Lag and Gazman, and John Flanagan, all amongst the early birds joining us early on. So. What we'll do is we won't look at last week's tables because neither of us were around for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just sort of dive straight into the latest goals and assists imminent tables, and we'll also take questions at the end as well. So it'll be slightly shorter because I'm not quite sure how my coldy head will survive, but we'll look at the tables and then we'll take some questions then. So do have a think about all of those. Kaya, Yun, Evan, and FPL Bateman are amongst others who have joined us all in the live chat. Welcome, welcome. Do have a think of some questions towards the end as well. Yeah, so Tom, yeah, you mentioned it's all change at the moment. So yeah, we know there's, we already knew double game week 34's fixtures and how advantageous they are for a number of teams, particularly Arsenal and Liverpool. They're the ones sort of target there in 34. They've got a double game week. 35 is over to Spurs and Chelsea. They've got a double, but not a great double. And then game week 37, you got Chelsea again and Tottenham, City, Man City, Brighton, Manchester United, and Newcastle. They're all the teams to target. So if you've got chips, you want to be using them around then. To sort of navigate that process, because double game week 34, double game week 37 are going to have very different sides. But it's game week 33 we're after. Let's just dive straight in. Goals imminent, latest table. Okay, so this is sorted by the last 4 matches using Fantasy Football Scouts members area. So it's a table I've constructed there. I've sorted it by expected goal delta. So it's got it's sort of analog and it's gone digital with XG as well. So it uses things like shots inside the box, old style stuff like that, big chances, but also newer stuff like XG. I say newer, last 10 years or so. So top of the tree here is I've highlighted players that I think people might be interested in with game week 34 in mind, but also good in game week 33. But there's some other players that are of interest as well. Alvarez at City, he has missed 4 chances and he's missed all 4 big chances that he's had over his last 4 matches. But he's had 5 shots on target. He's been underperforming by a couple of goals. He had no goals in his last 4 matches that he's appeared in. But he should have got a couple of goals. He's had 3 starts over that period. 10 shots inside the box and 13 shots in total. The reason he could be of interest in game week 33, if you're free hitting in 34, he might be a nice, interesting 1-week punt because City's game is sandwiched between an important European ties, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. So they play Real Madrid. The first leg is this evening. Then the next leg is next Wednesday. There's only a week separating the 2 legs. So you've obviously got Luton in between. And we might see a degree of rotation and certainly some managed minutes, I would think. So, yeah, Alvarez wouldn't normally have that security of starts now where he could become a viable pick. but you'd think that De Bruyne would be rested at the weekend and play
Yeah.
both of those Real Madrid ones. So Alvarez, whilst not guaranteed, probably looks likely to come into the 11.
Yeah.
So yeah, could be a good could be a good punt certainly if Haaland's off the pitch
Yeah.
for from 60, 70 minutes onwards, which could be happy if they're could happen if they're 2-3-0 up, then you might get penalties as well from him. So not a bad punt if you're looking to free hit in 34 and then maybe wild card in 35.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, they played Luton. There's a couple of reasons why I really like this fixture. One is, obvious. Man City against a promoted side at home sounds great on paper, but also they completely annihilated them last time they played them. I think didn't Haaland get 5 goals or something? It was in a cup game.
It was in the cup, wasn't it? The FA Cup. I think was it 4 or 5? I can't remember, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. And I was listening to BBC 5 Live the other day, and it had Andros Townsend on, who is always interesting. Every time he appears on radio, he gives such a good insight of being a professional player. But he was asked a question about the toughest team he's faced. Is it Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City? And he was saying it was without a shadow of doubt. He did not pause. He said Man City, and he was saying it was because the tactics that they used, they tried to press them, they just couldn't do it, and they could not get near the ball, and it was just Man City completely outfoxed them, and the implication was that there's no way that they have the capability to match City at all. No. Whereas he felt, that there were moments in their games with Liverpool and indeed Arsenal, where they had a real go at it and they got the better of them in periods. But for City, that was it. It was the end of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we might be fortunate to get a reliable leak for this one. I think it's the 3 p.m. on Saturday. So we have got an early kickoff involving Spurs, but we might get hints of what's going to happen. So if Alvarez is starting, or equally other players like Doku and things like that, it's applicable to him as well, isn't it? If you're not going to hold these assets long term and they're starting v Luton, obviously a very, very good pick for the week. So that one could be interesting. I think we're all hoping Haaland starts, aren't we? Because a lot of us have got the armband on him. But whether or not he gets serious minutes, I don't know. So.
I mean, barring any injury in the European Cup games, I do think that he will start because, I mean, Pep does like rhythm, and in that, and also he is aware when players need rests. And Haaland has recently had a full rest in a game.
Yeah.
Foden has recently had a full rest in the game. So I think Haaland and Foden will both start this. And I think you're right. Alvarez will come in for De Bruyne.
Yeah, I think that is the logical kind. The way we're looking at it, a lot can change after the game, of course, tonight. But for now, that looks like it'll be the case. And could be an explosive pick.
Indeed. I think I saw a comment earlier about why it was such a short list. I mean, sometimes it is a short list. In fact, it could have been even shorter. I've extended this list in recent weeks to 7 shots, at least 7 shots over the last 4 matches to include some of those players. There was a couple of players I did remove, of which, because they've played in their last matches, obviously, but not in the recent game weeks. But the reason I sort it by matches is because it's uneven at the moment with double game weeks and blanks. I think Christian Eriksen I removed. People wouldn't go there anyway, but also he's just not getting the starts. And I think I may have removed Jacob Ramsey as well from Villa.
He's out for the season.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Just for obviously, his last matches he's played, obviously, but they were a long time ago. So it's just things like that, really. But yeah, so it's actually extended, if anything. Next name is Brennan Johnson at Tottenham as well. I think he is quite an interesting player for those who are looking to wildcard in 35 or looking to invest in the Spurs team in 35. I think everyone's going to have Son in 35 for the double game weeks for Spurs. I think everyone will probably go for a defender. I've seen in some, and I'm tempted as well to get double Spurs defence, which sounds absolutely ludicrous, but I don't know where else to invest. And midfield slots are at a bit of a premium. But,
They are.
however, I do think Brennan Johnson could be quite a good pick as a differential, and I do think he will score because it's in the Spurs games in 35. Just looking down the list, they got Arsenal and Chelsea. I can't see clean sheets there, but I could see the odd goal. And Brennan Johnson,
Yeah.
so yeah, as a sort of a third Spurs player for that 35 onwards, and sort of investing now. I mean, they're away to Newcastle, who are very leaky defence.
Yeah.
Johnson's, I think he's in the mix.
Yeah, he makes such an impact. Even when he hasn't started, he's been coming on and really doing well. He's got a lot of attacking returns recently, and I think he's kind of played himself into that first team. The only slight thing to consider is Richarlison coming back. So if Richarlison comes back in, and I think he probably will go back in and lead the line, then Son will shift out to the left. Now, Johnson can still play on the right. I think he played there at the weekend. But there is competition there with Kulusevski, with Werner. But he feels like he's doing so well at the moment. I think he kind of needs to play at the moment for Spurs. They've really kind of been turning to him to change the match, whether that be from the start or coming on as a sub. So yeah, I agree. I don't think I'd be looking at. I think Porro for that double. You obviously saw the positions that he pops in at the weekend. He scored amazingly. That was his first goal of the season. But he's obviously got a lot of assists. I think he's got 8. So Porro, regardless of the opposition, I can understand why people will look at him on a wild card because of that attacking threat. But I would definitely favour double Spurs attack over the defence. And then I suppose it's Johnson or probably Richarlison. Maddison just doesn't seem to be quite hitting that pre-injury form at the moment. That could change, of course. But for now, yeah, Johnson would be in the mix, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Spurs as well. They've got another double in 37, which is likely to be Burnley and Man City. So a mixed bag of fixtures there. I'm personally, for my wild cards, I think I probably want Anthony Gordon for their Newcastle's game double, which is against Brighton at home and Manchester United. That says goals to me. But so I'm probably looking at, if I did get a Spurs player like Johnson or Richarlison, they would eventually become Gordon.
Yeah, that's exactly what I didn't put a draft together last night, but I started to consider how many players from each team, and I looked at Gordon because his fixtures are very good leading up to that double, aren't they? You know, got Sheffield United the week before, so it might be a case of going for a player like Richarlison or Johnson to get that double in 35, and then maybe transitioning him to Gordon. You should be able to do that fairly easily because obviously this wild card, which we're going to build, is only for 4 game weeks. So there shouldn't be too much surgery required in defence. That's my ideal anyway. I want to be able to use those transfers in midfield and attack. So yeah. Potentially, yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just looking at those fixtures there, I mean, yes, Spurs do have Burnley at home in 37, but Newcastle have Burnley away in 36. So you're sort of getting a similar-ish fixture there. And then it's just that Newcastle in 37, they got Brighton at home, and, you know, as part of their double, or likely to have Brighton at home, rather, I should say.
Yeah, although we're kind of speculating now, but keeping that third Spurs asset might not be so bad though, depending on what's happening with the title. If City were out of the title race, for example, and they were still in the Champions League, there's a high chance they'll be rotating and getting at 37. So that might not be such a bad fixture to have double Spurs attack, but we'll know more. We'll know more in a few weeks.
Definitely. Moving down the list, we've got Ivan Toney for Brentford. They home to Sheffield United. Ooh, I won't be captaining Toney. I won't own him, but because basically anyone who captains a player against Sheffield United, they think they're going to get an absolute haul. They don't. They're going to get absolutely nothing. But nevertheless, Brentford's fixtures, they're top of the fixtures. If you take away the fact we don't know the 37 doubles, so it will change. But at the moment, they're absolutely top of our fixture difficulty at Fantasy Football Scout. They've got Sheffield United, they've got Luton away in 34, then Everton away 35, 36 Fulham at home, in 37, not bad, Bournemouth away, and they finish the season against Toney, against his old club, and a leakiest defence possible for Newcastle in 38. So Toney is a good option. I'm personally not going there because there's no double, so I'm blinded by the doubles, and I think a lot of people will. But yeah, Toney, and Brentford in general could be quite good towards the end. It's a good run in, really good run in.
Fixtures are great, and they're that classic example of players that we won't look at because we're all looking at 34, 35, 37, and they'll probably tick along quite nicely. Tony was on the bench at the weekend at Villa. Now, Thomas Frank spoke after the match, and he said it was fitness, not form. He'd been carrying, I think, a small muscle injury in his hip. And Tony hasn't been doing very well. And I think Frank alluded to it, that it had actually been affecting him in the previous match as well, which might give us a little hint as to why he has been struggling.
Yeah.
But he thinks that he was going to be fresh and he'll be ready by taking him out of the firing line at Villa. He'll be fresh for this Sheffield United match. I think if you own him, you can play him. If you want to bring him in, you can get him, because I don't think there'll be an issue there. I think he'll do well over this one. I know he hadn't been playing well before that, but I think him and Brian and Bomo would be really nice picks.
Yeah, I do urge people to have a look at the If I Had a Free Hit in 33 video, which we recorded yesterday. And Brian and Bomo was one of my picks there. I suspect he might be your differentials picks this week. He's tailor-made for that.
Yeah, although we've just been looking at the Scout Picks bus team this morning, and I think there's a case to actually put him in the main Scout Picks this week, only because budget is... We get to this stage of the season, and I think we have £83 million to spend on the Scout Picks. And when you've got players like Haaland and Salah and Saka this week, and you want them all, we might have to take or save a few pennies and get Mboma over Tony. But they're both really good. But if Mboma doesn't make the Scout Picks, I put him in the differentials 2 weeks ago. He didn't return, but then he did return at Villa at the weekend, annoyingly. So yeah, he's a great option.
Yeah, he's back now. I mean, I think it's sort of, the old team are back together with, we could be looking at 3 up front, and Bomo, Tony, Wissa. That looks good. And they've got great fixtures. So yeah. But as you said, we're all going to ignore it. We don't want points. What do we want points for? Next name, Eze. He is probably my top target in 34 for me personally, because I've got Son. I'm going to wild card in 35 so I can get Son back. I don't want Son in 34 because he doesn't play, so blank. And Eze is a midfielder I don't have. And Crystal Palace's fixtures, Newcastle and West Ham at home in game week 34. They're pretty good fixtures from an attacking point of view. Eze has had 2 big chances, missed them both. He's been underperforming by at least a goal. No goals, but he has had 9 shots, 6 inside the box. I should add that Tony has had 14 shots in his last 4 matches, 11 shots inside the box. He's been underperforming by getting on for nearly 2 goals. Same with Brennan Johnson, underperforming by a couple of goals. Anyway, Eze. He's probably my top midfield target at the moment, because I'm already tripled up on Liverpool. Eze looks... I mean, he'll be in a lot of free hit teams, won't he, in 34?
I think that move which you just mentioned, Joe, Son to Eze in 34, I think that will be a really popular move. I think he'll probably be part of the template that week as the best 4 or 5 midfielders. He'll be in that. He was poor at the weekend, I thought, but it's against City. We can let him off for that. The only other factor could be Olise. He came on as a sub at the weekend. Now, I think when they're both fit, they make Palace much better. And I think that Palace have really struggled under Glasner. They won their first match under him and they haven't won since. They've lost a few in a row now. But I think if they can get Eze on Olise playing in behind Mateta, I think that's just good. We saw it before, didn't we, under Hodgson? As soon as those two are playing, they just create so much more. Eze's obviously playing a bit of a different role under Glasner, but it's still, I think he can still do well there. So, yeah, that's a move I've eyed up, a potential move anyway for 34, Son to Eze.
Definitely. But we have got a team selection video out. So me and Tom will be talking a lot more about our plans for 33, but also with 34 in mind as well. Because there is another midfield I have in mind, but it all depends on a goalkeeping situation. But more on that team selection video. Okay. I'm sort of alluding to Liverpool here, but Szoboszlai is next. He's not the midfielder I'm considering at Liverpool, but he is worth mentioning because every time he pops up on these lists here, he does return, or at least very much threatens to return. He's had 2 big chances. He's had 4 big chances. He's missed a couple of them. He's had 3 shots on target, 12 shots in total. This is not bad for a midfielder at Liverpool, and 4 shots inside the box. He's been underperforming by, he should have scored at least a goal over these last 4 matches here. No one will go for him, so I haven't highlighted him. I've highlighted Tony, Eze. I think these are players that will genuinely be under consideration for people. People won't go for Szoboszlai because Salah, Darwin, Diaz, already you've got 3 great attackers there. Meanwhile, you've got Van Dijk, you've got Kelleher still knocking around, being great value. Bradley still good value. Alexander-Arnold could be back, and the list goes on. Szoboszlai is way down the list people get, but could be good for a double maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he's a cracking player. I think a lot of his threat is from range. You can see that there. 12 shots, but only 4 in the box.
Yeah.
But he's creative too. That's not his only route to points goal threat. But the problem is, like you said, Joe, there's Salah, Diaz, and Darwin.
Yeah.
Now, Diaz is only 0.5 more than Szoboszlai, so it's not a massive difference. But you've also got McAllister, who's emerged as a viable pick recently, who's only 5.9.
Where did the Liverpool find him? What a gem.
Oh, unbelievable. Plucked him out of nowhere, didn't they? So, and he's sudden, and him with Endo coming back into the team has taken on this different role. He's not just a 6 now, he's playing more of an 8. He's getting forward a bit more, great value. So it's like, where does Szoboszlai fit in? He's the kind of player who could pop up and do something in a double. I think he'll remain a real differential.
Yeah. Same. And you mentioned McAllister there. Yeah, he will be another differential there. That is definitely worth considering. He was threatened to take a penalty. Now he was doing one of those sort of cheeky things where he hands the ball to Salah, but it looked like he might be taking it.
I was worried for a second because I was covering the game for Scout, and I kind of did that thing when you win a penalty like later on, and you're like, yes, captain points, here we go. And then I looked over to the monitor and McAllister had it in his hand, and I was like, no, but I could see Salah lurking, so I thought that would be the tactic.
I mean, even though McAllister is actually better penalty taker than Salah,
it's brilliant.
There's a hierarchy there, and I cannot fathom any player getting that ball off Salah, winning, and him giving it willingly. That just doesn't happen. Next name is Lewis Potter, Brentford. Okay, so obviously Brentford don't have a double. We have established they've got the best fixtures. Lewis Potter is not nailed on at all, and so I haven't highlighted him, but he's an interesting one to consider if you're looking to save a bit of money and you just want a player in that's going to get some minutes for a side with good fixtures. I think he'll come on 20 minutes or so, and he has had returns. He's had 4 shots on target, 9 shots, 8 inside the box, lots of close range shots there. A couple of starts in his last 4 matches. He's been underperforming by at least a goal, and he has had a big chance, as I said, over that time as well. Once again, it's Tony and Bomo, Wissa even, but Lewis Potter's not going to get a look in, but an interesting enabler, I think.
Yeah, I think the issue for him I think Frank might go to a 4-3-3, which he hasn't played much of recently because he's got the personnel to do that now. Now, Lewis Potter had been playing as a wing back in the old system quite a bit and doing well, actually. But if they switch to a 4-3-3, they're not going to play him at left back over Reguilon. And does he get in ahead of Wizza on the left wing? Potentially in a one-off match, but no, not enough security of starts there, I don't think.
And final name on this list is Gabriel at Arsenal. He's in pretty much most teams. I followed your lead last week. You had Ben White for a while in your Arsenal side. And when you look at teams, when we do our team selection video, I think, why is Tom always getting like 10 points more than me every week? And it's basically Ben White. But nevertheless, doubling up on the Arsenal defence. Arsenal, one of the best, the best defence at the moment. You're not going to get far with just one clean sheet there. But Gabriel does get those attacking returns. He's had a couple of big... bear in mind, he's a centre back here, and he's appearing on this table. That's huge anyway. So he's had a couple of big chances, missed them both. He should have got at least a goal over his last 4 matches. He's had 7 shots inside the box. So all of his shots are 7, all inside the box, because you can see where he goes. So they have... They have a corner. This is how it works. They have a corner. They aim for his head. He, like an absolute cannon, just like launches himself at it. And sometimes it goes in and sometimes it doesn't. That's basically the Gabriel narrative. So I'm pretty much I would say he's one of, if not the most essential player to have at the moment. And I'm going to keep him on a wild card, even though he doesn't have a double in 37.
Yeah, that was going to be a question I was going to put to you, Joe,
Yeah,
because they double in 34. Everybody's going to keep him. I think he had
yeah,
five of those shots from that table were against
yeah,
Brighton, I think, at the weekend. But
yeah.
yeah, the big thing which we're all going to ponder is you're not going to double on Arsenal defence if you're
Mm,
wildcarding in 35, but certainly keeping one. Getting
yeah.
rid of them
No.
completely feels risky. Given, I mean, playing the wild card in 35, you're probably not going to go with Saka either. Um, I don't think so, just because you're looking at volume of fixtures
Mm,
and things like that. So you're going to be removing very, very good assets. And I think removing Arsenal defence as well as
yeah,
Saka, that might be a bit too much for me.
yeah.
So given that nobody's really keeping
Mm,
consistent clean
no.
sheets apart from Arsenal at the moment either. So I think you can leave a spot for Gabriel. You can
Yeah,
play him. I don't think you play him away against Tottenham, but you play him against Bournemouth. You might even play them away against Tottenham, actually. They're
just
just so
play him.
reliable at the moment. Yeah, maybe that isn't such a bad idea. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I can see why people will keep him given the value as well. He's still cheap.
and then so Game Week 36 rolls on. He's at home to Bournemouth. Great.
Yeah,
And then Game Week 37, I'll be bench boosting there with Gabriel on my bench,
yeah,
hoping he gets a clean sheet and one of his rocket headers against Manchester
yeah.
United away. And then he finishes the season Game Week 38 at Everton. And I'm old school, and I still remember Arsenal beating Everton. Was it 7-1 or something? 7-0 back in the Martinez days. And
God,
what I think it
yeah,
was either
yeah.
the final day or the penultimate match. But anyway, I
Okay.
just who knows the title. They may need to definitely win that one, and even if they
Yeah.
perhaps even if the title was decided by Game Week 38, Arsenal in their final home game are just going to want to go absolutely nuts on this one.
Yeah, unless they're in a Champions League final, and then that might come into it.
Yeah,
But even if Arsenal rotate a bit, they've still got a lot of
yeah,
quality. They
yeah,
can bring in Trossard.
yeah,
They can bring in Gabby Jesus, who are probably not who isn't first
mm,
choice at the moment, and they
yeah,
can still roll teams over.
yeah,
But let's see where Everton are too. You know, they've obviously had another points deduction slapped on
mm,
them this week, haven't they? Another
yeah,
2 points. They felt like they were coming out of it and they were getting away from it after
yeah,
the win at Burnley, and then they're right back in it again now. So
yeah.
yeah, it's hard to speculate at the moment. We don't know what's that Arsenal Everton match. Who knows what's going to be on the line?
Let's move on to assists imminent. See who's due an
Mm.
assist. Okay, it's a bit of a longer table, this one. I've sorted this by expected assists delta, which is how much they've underperformed there. And in terms of chances created, I've gone down to 7 for this one. So they've had to have had at least 7 chances created over the last 4 matches. Top is Foden. And I know in FPL General's video this week, we're going to be talking about him a lot because he's currently not in his team. He's currently not in my team. So
No,
I
me
missed out
neither.
on his latest hat trick.
Yeah,
Got the other one, but not this one. It's just a gentle reminder, that hat trick, a little gentle reminder that he's really good. 5 goals in his last 4 matches, but no assists. But so he's due an assist. So we all know about his goal scoring. He's had 8 corners, created 6 chances over his last 4 matches, and a couple of successful crosses. So when I see a player like Foden on any of these tables, I think, oh my God, I wish he was in my team. But he's not. Yeah, Foden.
yeah.
He's in 4 out of 10 teams around my rank, which is sort of around the sort of
So it's a
20
real threat.
28k.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's a real threat there. Yeah, he's not in your team, and you wish he was,
No,
perhaps.
well, I missed his Brentford hat trick earlier this year. I missed the Villa hat trick, which was particularly painful.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, that's what 40 points I've missed out on there.
yeah,
And it's not nice when he's playing off the flank and I'm watching games. I'm never quite as concerned, but as soon as he takes up those central roles, um, it's not nice watching him when he's getting that, and he probably will play a central role this weekend because I don't think, like we said, KDB
yeah,
probably won't play.
yeah.
So you can expect him to take up those positions, those central positions, with maybe Rico Lewis kind of
Mm,
overlapping him if Walker isn't fit, which I don't think he will be. So yeah, I guess if you're on a free hit, for example, in 34, Joe, which I'm sure a lot of people who are
Mm.
watching will be, and we got wind that Foden was starting, would you consider Saka to Foden, knowing that you can free hit Saka back in 34 this week? Or
Yeah.
because Saka's still got a good fixture.
Yeah, no, I just would. You've just frozen for me for a moment there, so hopefully you'll pop back. But yeah, I definitely would. And as said, when on FPL General's video this week, that's a subject we will talk about because he's on that exact strategy of free hit. He's already wildcarded, so he's looking to build for later, and he's free hitting in
Mate, it
34. And
probably
lots of
makes
people
even more sense then.
lots of
Yeah.
people on that strategy there. And yes, I would in a
Mm.
heartbeat because I think Foden is good for this week. He's better this week. I think
Yeah.
he's also better from 35 onwards, and you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about 34 because you can free hit Saka back in. So
Yeah.
yes, that's exactly what I would do there. Next name is a bit more controversial though. Bruno Fernandes,
Mm.
who unleashed a centre circle goal, which is I
It's
don't know if that's the
amazing. Yeah.
first Man United one since Beckham did it, but nevertheless, another reminder there of his potential. He's created 13 chances, had 15 corners. He's scored 3 goals in his last 4 matches. That may surprise a lot of people because he's very, very lowly owned. He's had 7 successful crosses, but no assists. And he should have got at least around about an assist over this period there. So, yeah, I think he'll become interesting as we near game week 37. Manchester United's double is likely to be Arsenal at home and Newcastle at home, which is sort of half good, but there is attacking potential, particularly at the Newcastle game. But yeah, I won't go there because I've got Garnacho, so Garnacho's my man there, and I think people will go for Garnacho over value. But I think those that have had Fernandes, as we've seen with 3 goals in his last 4 matches, those who've had him recently in their team have got very nice, potentially green arrows overall, but he certainly helped a green arrow.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's got 3 goals and 2 assists in his last 6 games. If you extend the period to 6 matches, so he's returned in 5 of the 6 games. Fixtures are brilliant for United, aren't they? I think from the point that when they take on Bournemouth, which is in 33. So then after Bournemouth, it's Sheffield United, Burnley, Crystal Palace, and then a double. You
Yeah.
know, those are really good fixtures, aren't they? Fernandes kind of was a key reason, and Rashford was a key reason behind my slow start to the season. So I'm not sure whether I want to kind of go back there. But the fixtures are good. I'll probably go for one United, and I just need to decide if that would be Fernandes or Garnacho.
Yeah.
Garnacho unlocks a lot, doesn't he, because of his price?
Yeah.
And when you're building a bench boost for 37, having an enabler like that is really important. And Garnacho is probably the best one under 5 million. So I think it would be hard for Fernandes to get it in, but he could be a good differential. He's absolutely nailed on, isn't he? You know, he's a 90-minute man. And so, yeah, if you're looking to do something different on not just 37, but running up to that as well, maybe Fernandes is worth a look.
Definitely. Colm has reminded us in the live chat that Foden also has a great goal scoring record against Brighton, who Man City face in game week 34. So that's probably why I'm going to be fielding Haaland during that game week as well, because it's a good fixture. But yeah, Foden does. I think pretty much any attacking player's got a good record against Brighton recently if they played them a lot. So I don't. I just think that City attacking options would be good then. Odegaard.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Odegaard.
Sorry,
Is,
Joe.
yeah.
I was just going to really quickly say it's interesting what to do with Haaland as well, isn't it? Because he's obviously only plays once, but it's a very good fixture. So do you go in with Haaland or do you opt for a double player? Just something to think about. So.
Yeah. If I go. Yeah. So there's a couple of comments in the live chat actually around moving Son to Foden this week, especially if you're not not free hitting, because then you can play Foden in 34, and he's in place for 35 whether you're wildcarding or not. My only caveat with that is Son against a rubbish high line from Newcastle says to me goals.
Yes. Yeah, I don't. If you know Foden's starting though, that might tempt me because you're getting that extra. If you're not free hitting, you're getting that extra fixture in 34,
Yeah.
which might be kind of important for some managers. So
But,
I don't know. Yeah, I think Son at Newcastle is a good fixture. You'd
yeah.
expect Tottenham to score, but it's again, it's a bit like we said. It's not Luton at home good, is
No.
it? But then as again, the caveat with City this week is that even if Foden starts, if they're 3-0 up
Yeah.
after 45, 50, 60 minutes, whatever, don't be surprised if these players start coming off with Real Madrid,
Yeah.
depending on what happens tonight. If
Yeah.
City go away and blow Real Madrid away tonight, which I don't
Yeah.
think will happen, but if they were to, and they were to rack up a 2-3 goal lead, then that might change things a little bit. But the minutes of Son is something which I've really liked this season. When he's fit, he
Yeah.
plays and he plays
Yeah.
good minutes. And so that's a really tricky one, Foden or Son.
Yeah.
Because Son, of course, has got the penalties as well.
Yeah,
So
definitely. So, I mean, I personally won't be doing that, but I can see the attraction of that.
yeah,
I'm just gonna go with Haaland for 33, 34, and hope
yeah.
and hope.
I've got to do the same.
But
Yeah,
another option would be because also the Son role is about to become Eze, or it could become a Liverpool midfielder in
yeah.
34, which I
Same.
think is better in 34. So whereas Haaland, so if I did make that move and keep Foden, I'd ditch Haaland, and of course Haaland could become like Mateta or something. But I don't like that as
Yeah.
much.
No, yeah, no. I think we're in similar positions. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
and we'll talk about it on the team reveal
yeah,
video.
definitely. McNeil at Everton. These are a couple of players that I haven't highlighted because I don't think people go for them. But McNeil at Everton, maybe, because Everton do have a double in 34 at home to Newcastle. At home to Nottingham Forest and at home to Liverpool. McNeil in his last 4 matches has taken 11 corners, had 10 chances. Should have got an assist over this period. He's had 8 successful crosses. It's hard to know what to make of Everton. I mean, they're not a great side. They're threatened with relegation, partly to do with their financial issues and also to do with their actual form as well. But 5.4, I don't mind McNeil as a punt. I mean, I won't go there myself, but I don't mind him as a differential. I just think there's too many other better options from better teams.
Yeah, I did have a look at him. I bought in Sarabia, was it 2 weeks ago, I
Yeah,
think? And it was between him and McNeil for that spot. I needed like a cheap midfielder who doubled in 34. But the good thing, I actually bought in Pickford this week, and it was simply because of Everton's fixtures, because they not only double in 34, but they then play Luton, Sheffield United, and there's a Brentford game before that as well. So
yeah,
the fixtures is just really good. And I'll be wildcarding in 35. So really the main thing for me was getting a double game week goalkeeper in, which is why I moved for Pickford. But
yeah,
yeah, depending on what strategy you're on, McNeil it could be an enabler. Everton don't score many goals. That's the problem.
yeah,
I think they've scored 6 in the last 8.
yeah,
So there's not, if they score, they're probably only going to score 1 or 2 in a match,
yeah,
one most of the time. So that's why I went with Sarabia, because I thought there was a little bit more goal threat at Wolves. They're starting to get players back like Cunha and Hwang and things like that. So I thought there was a bit more potential in that team. But I don't mind McNeil.
yeah.
No.
Next name is Willian. I don't think people are going to go there for Fulham. Fulham, last time we did a goals imminent show, Fulham were like near the top of the fixture ticker. They've slipped down because they've got Liverpool in 34 and they've got City in 37.
Yeah.
Okay fixtures around that, but just okay, like Crystal Palace, Brentford, and they finish away at Luton, who could be fighting for their Premier League survival. And I think most neutrals will hope they do survive because they've been great,
Yeah.
Luton, this
Yeah.
season. So I
Yeah.
don't think go
Great.
from. I'll just read out his stats. So he's had 8 successful crosses, 8 corners, 7 chances created, but no goals or assists. Pascal Gross might get some interest at Brighton. Not in great form at the moment. I think a lot of the injuries are catching up with them. Being in Europe is catching up with them for the first time,
Yeah.
and in just general form. It's very sad. I did see on the from a lot of Brighton fans who were at the game. A number of Brighton fans were leaving before, by the sort of the 80th minute mark. Obviously to get out of the Falmer Stadium area in time. But at the same time, I back in my day, no Brighton fans would have left with 10 minutes to go. So especially against a team like Arsenal, they'd want to see, maybe get a goal, maybe two towards the end of the game, and didn't happen. Nevertheless, Pascal Gross, 13 chances created, 20 corners, 10 successful crosses, just 1 assist, but he should have got around about another one. I'm borderline tempted by Brighton, by Pascal Gross. I just want to see a little bit of upturn in form, but because they've got a double in 37, even though it will be a tough double, it's a double nevertheless, and Pascal Gross, I think, could do well. I mean, if you were to get a Brighton player, it'd probably be Pascal Gross, would it?
Yeah, João Pedro maybe, but I don't think that maybe his minutes obviously the key to Gross is that he is so secure in his starts and his minutes. They've got Burnley this weekend. At first, I looked at those fixtures and I thought, oh, that's a tough run to follow. But once they get City out the way in 34, I'm not so sure it is bad with Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle, and Man United, because they're all teams that which can see goals.
Yeah.
So, and obviously they've got that double in 37 as well. So Gross, I mean, all he needs is an assist and he gets bonus the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So you're not talking about 5 points, you're talking about 7 or 8 points from one attack in return. And that's why I like him. I think he'll be hard to fit in, given who else I'm looking at on a wild card. But that's not to say he can't do really well.
I think he's captainable game week 38 because, as Colm was pointing out about Foden, good record against Brighton, Pascal Gross's record against Manchester United, who he faced in the final day, is absolutely immense. I remember one particular game where he ran away with top bonus, and Brighton lost 1-0. So that's the measure of the man. So should be on penalties as well. Should be if Pedro's not there. Next name's Grealish. I don't think people are going to go there. Foden, Haaland. Well, maybe actually. I don't know. No, I just don't think he's going to get the start. So he's just one successful cross. His role in the team, whenever I look at it, is pretty good. But he seems to be a brilliant assister of the assister. I mean, his assist for Kevin De Bruyne's assist, for example, in the last game, that's just
which wasn't given as an assist,
wasn't given as an assist. But he as a team player, I still think he's good. I don't think he's, I mean, you know all about Grealish as a Villa fan, but he's just, for an FPL asset, 6 chances created, 1 successful cross. Okay, but he's not great from an FPL point scoring.
Yeah, I think he was popular last year because he was absolutely nailed onto that role, and that's the battle with City, isn't it? If you're getting a player who's nailed on in that attack, you're gonna be interested. The problem this year, he hasn't been, and I think that Grealish is going to be quite a big player for them in Europe, because I think that he will like to play Grealish against Real Madrid because he brings a bit more control. That makes him a risk for the Premier League. Doku will probably start on Saturday, won't he? I would have thought. So not an FPL pick.
Next name is Louise, who can't play, so he won't get anything for us in 33. He's suspended for 2 games, I believe.
2.
But I've left him on there. I was going to take him off, but I've left him on there just as a reminder for when he is back for the final few games of the season. That he has got that assist potential there. He's also on penalties at Villa as well. So just a name we should be sort of remembering, especially when. I mean, the last fixtures are mixed, but Brighton in 36 and Crystal Palace in 38. So I don't think he should be discounted. 13 corners, 7 chances created, 5 successful crosses. Last 4 matches, not bad. And Szoboszlai is at the foot of this list. Our friend from the goals imminent table. So he's appearing on both. He's had 18 corners and created 11 chances and 5 successful crosses. So, not much more we can add about Szoboszlai other than people won't go for him, but he is, with those long-range efforts and the assist potential, I think he is a player to at least bear in mind for the double game week.
Yeah, and I suppose the good thing is with Liverpool is that they're not in the Champions League. Yes, they're in Europe. They're in the Europa League. They've got Atlanta this week. Maybe Klopp can rotate a little bit more than Pep can, given that given the status of, and I'm not talking just about this week, but during the run-in, the Europa League may enable them to kind of rest a few players then, and Szoboszlai would be key in the league, you would think. So.
Okay, let's have some. We'll answer some of your questions. So do get some more questions in the live chat. I'll go through the chat and see which ones I'm going to find. This will carry on until basically I can do it no more. I have been muting while I've been doing disgusting sneezes and blowing my nose. So
You've done well.
I may not be able to do that this time around. So you've been warned. Okay, there is a super chat question. I don't know the currency, but it's 219.99 of whatever that is have been sent to us. So thank you, Emery, there. So he's saying my plan was to go for a Liverpool attacking triple for game week 34. However, he also has Areola and Ake in his side, so both he's got injuries problems, and so he's now forced to play in game week 33 double or game week 34 double Bournemouth defence, which he's not too keen on. He's saying, would you still focus on a Liverpool attacking triple up, or would you just get Van Dijk in as a way of covering some of those injuries in defence, particularly with Ake and some of those problems in defence? So yeah, he's got problems in defence, so Van Dijk looks good addressing problems, but at the same time, Liverpool attack. Yeah, what would you do?
I think that defence might need a bit of surgery because you don't know when Ake is going to be back. You've got double Bournemouth defence at Villa and Wolves. Yes, they could keep a clean sheet in one of those games, but it would surprise me. I don't think they will because I think Wolves are getting players back. Villa usually score at home. Very rarely do a teams keep us out completely. So yeah, that I kind of get the appeal of triple Liverpool attack in a double. Of course, that's nice, but you could go double Liverpool attack and then get Van Dijk. I wouldn't go Bradley because I think until we know what's happening with Alexander-Arnold. And I suppose if you get Van Dijk this week as well, he could help you out for the Palace home game because obviously, you've got, you've said you already own double Bournemouth defence at home to Man United. You probably only want to play one of those players, if any at all. They'll probably concede, I think. And then you've got Ake as well. He probably won't be ready for Luton. Not guaranteed, but let's see what Pep says later in the week. I just think it's one of those where you're so obsessed with going triple attack, but in reality, you've got other areas of your team which maybe need to be looked at.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, I'm in a sort of similar position. I've got Kelleher, who might be out of the team if Alisson's back.
Yeah.
So you just got to do it. You just got to sort of play, the cards that dealt you in terms of how you're set up for the double. So I'd still be tempted to move Keller to Alisson, for example, or I mean, and if I had Ake, I'd be very tempted by Van Dijk, another sort of nailed on Liverpool defender. But I do like the idea of Diaz and Darwin and Salah and having those. But at the same time, I think there's clean sheet potential get away to Fulham and Everton. I think there's definite clean sheet potential there. And also Jota could be back as well, so he could eat in some minutes there. But yeah, I think you're right. And there's something I just favour, just sort of having a hand in everything, really, not going too overboard.
Yeah, you're going to lose points with that defence if you go into 34 with that defence. I'm sure other people are going to have an edge on you if you're going in with double Bournemouth, for instance. So there's a lot on Diaz to perform if that's going to be your third Liverpool pick, or if it's Darwin. There's a lot of pressure on that player to perform because they've not only got to perform, but they've got to help you outscore in total other teams who have got much better defences. For that one, people, I presume you've got an Arsenal defender already to complement them. But yeah, people with Liverpool defence, and I think people might go for players like Munoz from Palace, who's got 2 fixtures. I think Branthwaite will be popular as well, who's got 2 fixtures. So it's a lot to ask of that Liverpool player to make up that many points, I think.
Luke asked, what do we think about Elise for the double? I think we've already sort of addressed that. Elise is definitely one to consider, and there's a bit of an audition. I know it's against Liverpool, but I'll be looking at Elise and as well as Eze's probably got the edge for me at the moment, but Elise's...
Well, he's a bit fitter, isn't he, as well?
Yeah.
It's not, is Elise going to be up to playing 2 games of getting 70, 80 minutes in both? Well, I'm not sure. No.
STE.R, I don't know how to pronounce that. He's got Hwang for game week 34. Of course, Wolves do play twice, Arsenal, Bournemouth, but should he swap in for Diaz for Liverpool, who might be better?
It's quite difficult because Hwang isn't involved. He's back in training, but he's not involved. I don't even think he was in the match day squad at the weekend. And they've been very careful with Cunha, haven't they? He's been coming on as a sub in the past 2 games, but they're not throwing him in, which makes me think, well, will they do the same with Hwang? Will they hold him back a bit? So yeah, I think Diaz, given his appeal, I would still consider that move. I know it depends on the rest of your squad. It feels like a bit of a luxury move taking out a double game week player.
Yeah.
But if your rest of your team's really well set up in isolation, you'd take Luis Diaz over Hwang any day of the week, wouldn't you? No.
Certainly. Okay, I'm going to read another question now. If you could answer that while I just take a call.
Yeah.
Would we consider Chelsea or Spurs defenders?
Okay. So yeah, I think probably Spurs defense over Chelsea. Now, looking at that Chelsea double, which you've got in game week 34, you've got Villa and Tottenham in that. Now, I don't see any clean sheets for that. And even beyond that, I mean, do we trust that Chelsea backline at the moment? I mean, they're not keeping clean sheets. They're in a bit of a state in terms of their organisation. We saw that at Bramall Lane at the weekend. And yeah, you could say the same about Spurs, but what you get with Spurs is you get more attacking threat from somebody like Porro. So I think if it was a straight shootout between Chelsea and Spurs, I think I'd be more tempted to go for that. Going for somebody like Porro, and I think I would prefer Porro to Udogie. I don't know if people saw it the weekend, but in the match on Sunday against Forest, Porro was really prominent at corners. I think he took every single corner up until Lo Celso's introduction as a substitute, which was on 75 minutes, something like that, I think. And that was with Maddison on the pitch. So he seems to be preferred in those situations at the moment. And that's obviously another route to points. And then we saw in the goal the kind of places which he's popping up in the box. Do I think Spurs will keep clean sheets? Many clean sheets? No, but that's exactly the same applies to Chelsea. And who do you go for at Chelsea? I mean, Gusto, his fitness is obviously being handled a little bit. You could go for somebody like Dizazi, who's probably a little bit more secure. But no, I think I'll let Joe put his input into it. But if it was for me, I think I'd favour Porro. No. Spurs or Chelsea, I think, was the question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought if it was a straight shootout, one or the other, I think I'd go Porro, because he's got that attacking threat, which Gusto is obviously being handled. I think they said he had been ill last week and he'd played 2 matches in a row and a third was a bit.
Oh, just want to establish I was actually muted then. So sorry about that. I will answer that question again for people there. Oh, hang on a sec. Brilliant timing from the troll here. So,
no, he's back.
So basically, the person that I told do not call me between 1 and 2 calls me at 10 to 2. Brilliant. I've got a massive cold. I've just muted myself there, so I'm unmuting myself. And then some idiot troll decides to come into the live chat. So anyway, the answer to that question was I favour a bit of everything when it comes to Chelsea, Spurs, and indeed Arsenal defence. So I'll be going for one of Porro or Doggy, one of Petrovic and Gusto, one of Gabriel and Saliba, for example.
Yeah.
And if you just bear with me a second. So that's what I'd be going for there. Okay, there was a really good question of someone who was basically saying I'm about to go. but I'm going to listen back. Okay. Oh yes, Kaya here. He says I have to go, but I'm throwing in my question for the Q&A, so hopefully you can listen back on the answer later. Best two to buy of Havertz, Saka, Zarabia, or Luis Diaz. So I think it's Sarabia at Wolves. That is. Good luck. Oh,
Diaz.
okay. Well, thanks for the question there. I'll hand that over to you. Yeah, which do you think? The best two to buy of Havertz, Saka, Sarabia, or Luis Diaz?
Well, I mean, it's chip strategy dependent, but if we're going to presume that this is just for the next couple of weeks to take advantage of those doubles, which is, I presume, what the guy or girl who's asking it
Yeah,
is referring
Kaya.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think I'd definitely go with the one Arsenal, and I still prefer Saka. I know Havertz is doing really well as at the moment, but I just find that Saka's security in that team, the fact he's getting penalties, I think he's a superior asset to Havertz, albeit Havertz is in a really good moment at the moment, looks more confident. But I think I would just go for Saka out of those options. And I think I would go with Diaz as well.
yeah,
I wouldn't put, I think Sarabia is a really nice enabler. If he
yeah.
means that you can do something else with your team, which is what he did in my team, which really benefits me, then go for it. But
Okay.
if it's just like a straight kind of who is the two best, I think it would be Saka and Diaz for me.
Okay, so Khan asks best defenders to buy if you don't have a free hit or a wild card left at all. So if you've got none of those chips left as well. So basically, best defender to get in for the duration.
Yeah. Um, yeah, well, an Arsenal defender's got to be that player, hasn't he? I know that they don't double in 37, but if you you need an Arsenal defender for 34, so of course it would be somebody like Gabriel.
Yeah.
Liverpool defenders, then of course Van Dijk has got
Yeah.
that security right now, and I think if you're looking for a kind of a cheap player, if you've already got that locked in or something, I would definitely look at Everton, and I would either look at Mikolenko
Yeah.
or Branthwaite if you can't afford him.
Yeah, I agree. Really, I do think. I think Gabriel, if you haven't got him, which I think most people would have, but I think maybe a Spurs defender, but then with a view to moving on,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. And then I suppose there was somebody else who just caught my eye as well, and I've lost it already. Oh, Newcastle to consider as well,
Yeah.
because I know they're not great defensively at the moment. But it's just those fixtures from 35 on. It's 35. Well, they've got the game leading into the double is really good as well. So if Trippier was back, or
Yeah.
Dan Burn seems pretty locked in that team, doesn't he? You
Yeah.
could consider that, but I think I'd prefer an Everton defender.
Yeah, definitely. Wayne asks a Kanji opinion, please, to get him in. I'm just don't want to go anywhere near the Man City defence. I just don't think any of them are nailed.
Yeah, well, he was benched it on Saturday, wasn't he, for the
Yeah.
trip to Selhurst Park? He came on at half time because Guardiola picked up a knock. But yeah, City, they're not keeping clean sheets at the moment.
Yeah.
They're conceding the odd goal here and there. I think I will probably want one when a wild card, because there's not loads of people putting their hand up at the moment, but it's very difficult to know who. Will Diaz be rotated a bit more
Yeah.
once you get to the semi-stage of the Champions League? Akanji was really reliable last year in terms of starts, so I think he would be the one I think that I'd be looking at. Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I think there's others that are maybe ahead, but at City, I think that Akanji's okay.
Yeah. Sunak asks Diaz or Nunes. Looks like Nunes might be more of a rotation risk. Thanks. If I could start again, I would have Diaz over Darwin Nunes, but I don't think Darwin Nunes is a bad option. He misses a lot of chances, but he does get a lot of chances, and he came away with an assist the weekend, and so I think he's a safe stream soon. But I do think Diaz is better, but that doesn't say that I think Nunes is a bad option with a double game week in 34.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think that Darwin's been the only thing I would say, and just from watching games, and I don't even know if the stats back this up or not, but when Darwin was playing in that team without Salah, when Salah wasn't available, I think he looked more threatening than he does when Salah is in that team.
Yeah.
That's just an eye test thing. I don't know if that can be backed up. So I would take, if it was a kind of like if I was free hitting next week, for example, I would pick Diaz over Darwin. I think both really good options. So I do want to emphasise that we're talking about
I think that's well.
two brilliant picks on a free hit, and I may still go Darwin over Diaz because it suits my team better. But I think that if I was building a team from scratch, I think I'd go Diaz.
Yes, I think I would as well. But as you said, it doesn't make Darwin a bad option.
No.
Abd asks, bring Foden or Gordon first. He's free hitting in 34, so ignore 34. The rest of the fixtures, I would say sort of, but it gave me 37. I'd want both, so I would think Foden and Gordon, and maybe get Gordon by someone else. Now earlier in the stream, I mentioned the possibility of getting, say, Brennan Johnson in or Richarlison, and they're not a player I particularly want long term, even though they have a double in 37. But I sort of want them for the double in 35, and then one of those would just become Gordon, I think.
Yeah. I think if we know that Foden's starting at home against Luton, it's really hard to say don't get him in.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if Gordon exceeded his points tally, because if you're free hitting in 34, Newcastle play Tottenham at home, they play Sheffield United at home after the double, then they go to Burnley away, and those two home, we know how reliable Gordon is in home matches this year. He very rarely blanks.
Yes.
And he will play the full 90 minutes, and we don't know that about Foden this week. So I know that I'd be exactly the same. If that was my choice and somebody leaks that Foden's starting, I'm pretty sure I would go for Foden. But it could be a kind of canny move to go for Gordon instead.
Yeah. I'm going to go for the final question here because my head's about to explode.
Deteriorating.
And it's from Jamie. He asks, he means, so he's got Gabriel and Saliba and Saka, and he's looking at double game week, other double game week players. Say, for example, Nori, for example, looking to save a bit of money here. So it's a question there for basically people who've got double Arsenal defence, or perhaps thinking about getting double Arsenal defence. And I think essentially for all players here, so sort of I'm using your question, Jamie, here to look at other issues around defence there. So essentially, is it good to go for or keep an Arsenal double defence, or mix it up a bit and keep one and then maybe go for someone like Nori?
Yeah, I think that will be the dilemma for people on a free hit in 34, because I think they're going to want to differentiate their squads from those who aren't free hitting. And the squads that aren't free hitting, like mine and yours, Joe, we've all got double defence. So I think that they're going to go one defender, and I think they're going to go with an Odegaard, or they're going to get a Havertz to kind of spice it up a little bit. But, and I would probably do the same just to differentiate a bit, but I don't know if I don't know if it's the most sensible thing to do. Arsenal's their defence has been so reliable recently, but also their numbers across the season have been excellent. Yeah. Wolves away, Chelsea at home. Would that surprise anybody if they keep 2 clean sheets there? Not me.
No.
And obviously, you get 6 points for that clean sheet, providing they play 60 plus, and the main defenders, I'm sure, will. Even Villa at home, that ain't going to surprise me if they keep a clean sheet. They're just so reliable. I wouldn't start messing around with transfers and stuff like that, taking them out. I think I'd look at look at what they've delivered recently. Why would you move away from that double up?
Yeah, Jamie is clarified specifically for his question here. As part of what we've just describing there, it means it frees up an Arsenal spot, which he would get Raya for. So he would end up getting double defence anyway. I cannot see the logic in that, to be honest. If you've got double defence, just keep it. And there's always better players if you're a bit short of money.
And Raya's what, 5.1?
Yeah, I can't see.
There's not a massive difference between him and Gabriel.
If Raya was getting 3 save points every week, racking up 9 saves, but he's not, because his defence is too good. He's the worst sort of goalkeeper you can have. He's playing in a great team with a great defence, so he's not going to make any saves because his defence is too good.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense to go, given the set piece threat that Arsenal have. It makes sense, I think, to go with double defence over Raya and a defender. Yeah. Because we've seen like Ben White recently. We've seen Gabriel pop up with goals. Saliba's, he's got that threat from set pieces as well. You've got 3 really good defenders there. So, no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, Jamie's reiterating that, but it means I can get 8 Nori. Just, I personally just think, look at weak links. Double Arsenal defence is not your weak link.
No, well, 8 Nore is currently flagged. We need an update on him.
Yeah.
He has been really good recently playing in the front three, but Cunha will start soon. Huang, we once he's back, that front three will probably be Cunha, Huang, and Sarabia. And so 8 Nore will still be a good pick, but he'll be back as a wing back, and he will have assist potential, but he won't be getting, I don't think, those big chances that as he will get some, because he does attack, he does come inside, but he won't be getting at the same frequency he has been recently.
Yeah, at this stage of the season, I don't see much logic in swapping good players for other good players.
One of those fixtures in the double for 8 Nore is Arsenal at home. So you're going to need attacking returns, I think. So I get the appeal in 8 Nore, but I certainly wouldn't go ripping up your team for him.
No, definitely. Salah, Haaland, these are players you rip up your team for. 8 Nori, for all his skills, and Raya even. Rob, the editor in the live chat, has pointed out Raya goal could be imminent soon. Who knows? There's me saying don't get Raya, and yes, Raya could get an unusual goal. The wind could change, and he could do that. Not that he ever does any long shots out of goal anyway, so I'm not sure how he would score a goal. Okay. We're going to go now. We've got a team selection video coming up. Do remember to press that like button. Colm in the live chat was suggesting that by pressing the like button, you'll help get rid of my cold quicker. If that is true, I would absolutely do press the like button. That would be brilliant. Do remember to subscribe so you can keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. Got lots coming this week. And good luck with the game week. Good luck with your game week as well, Tom. And good luck to all our goals and assists imminent attendees on the tables.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe.